This is Plant-Based Briefing, Vegan Dogs 101, Plant-Based Nutrition for Dogs, from Vecado Plant-Based Pet Foods at Vecado.ca. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles from experts with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And today's article is from a new contributor I'm excited to be able to read from. They're Vecado.ca, and they're a plant-based pet food distribution company. Their goal is to enable you to live your values by providing your dog and cat with vegan pet food that's healthy and has no negative consequences on other animals or the planet. Vegan products can be difficult to find and can be expensive, so they reduce the cost by importing in large quantities and pass the savings on to their customers. They also do a great job educating people on plant-based nutrition for dogs and cats with their blogs and video interviews with scientists and veterinarians. And Vecado and all of their suppliers are 100% vegan companies, compassionate for all animals, and with a minimal environmental footprint. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Vegan Dogs 101, Plant-Based Nutrition for Dogs, from Vecado.ca. How natural is the plant-based diet for dogs? A common concern about plant-based food for dogs is whether it is quote-unquote natural. If dogs evolved from wolves and wolves preyed on other animals, shouldn't dogs also eat flesh? The following sections discuss this in depth from the evolutionary perspective, dogs evolving as human companions and living on scraps, as well as from the conventional diet perspective, conventional meat-based commercial diets being very different from what wolves have consumed in the wild. Dogs and wolves, omnivores versus carnivores. Domestic dogs, Canis lupus familiaris, belong to the order of Carnivora. Their ancestral counterparts subsisted primarily or entirely on captured prey animals. Accordingly, they have a range of evolutionary adaptations designed to facilitate capture, apprehension, mastication, digestion, and absorption of animal tissues. These include senses designed to detect prey animals, a musculoskeletal system designed to facilitate their capture, canine teeth to assist with apprehension, tooth crowns designed for cutting and slicing rather than grinding of plant materials, which are more prominent in herbivores, and intestinal tracts that are shorter and have different digestive enzymes and intestinal flora than those of herbivores, which require relatively prolonged processing and digestion times. However, perhaps as long as 33,000 years ago, dogs were domesticated from wolves. These ancestral dogs were partially dependent on human food scraps. Accordingly, behavioral and physiological adaptations to a more varied diet, including plant-based foods, were necessary to allow ancestral dogs to thrive and achieve evolutionary success. Compared to carnivorous wolves, omnivorous dogs have evolved a superior ability to metabolize carbohydrates and to subsist on a diet lower in protein. Biochemical adaptations facilitating this include increased gene expression for pancreatic amylase, the ability to convert maltose to glucose, and increased intestinal glucose uptake. Accordingly, the domestic dog is biologically omnivorous. Conventional meat-based diets are not what wolves have eaten. It is illuminating to compare the ingredients included within commercial meat-based diets with the natural diets of wolves. Commercial diets commonly include body parts from cows, sheep, pigs, turkeys, ducks, chickens, fish, and prawns, some of which have been labeled as unfit for human consumption. Conventional meat-based commercial food can contain significant hazards and a range of clearly unnatural ingredients. As described previously, these have included potentially pathogenic microorganisms, prion proteins, mycotoxins, antibiotic and hormonal residues, chemical contaminants such as melamine, plastic ear tags, styrofoam packaging, and heavy metal and organic pollutants within fish. To encourage domesticated dogs to eat such diets, dry food may be sprayed with a combination of refined animal fat, lard, used restaurant grease, and other oils that are sometimes considered too rancid or inedible for human consumption. These provide the distinctive smell that wafts from a newly opened packet of kibble. However, deep frying of restaurant food results in rapid oxidation, producing free radicals, trans fatty acids, and other toxins. Repeated use of oil results in the buildup of such contaminants. Digest may also be utilized. Digest is an industry euphemism for a soup of partially dissolved intestines, livers, lungs, and miscellaneous viscera of chickens primarily, and other animals, produced using various enzymes and acids. The precise ingredients used are trade secrets, which in differing combinations produce varying flavors. Batches considered to taste more like beef can transform a can of miscellaneous body parts into, quote, beef stew, while those considered more fishy may result in, quote, ocean whitefish, and so on. According to Lewis and colleagues in Small Animal Clinical Nutrition, quote, digest is probably the most important factor discovered in recent years for enhancing the palatability of dry food for cats and, to a lesser degree, dogs. In contrast, the natural diet of wolves consists primarily of animal protein typically sourced from larger prey such as elk, with the nutrient-dense organs consumed first, followed by muscle tissue. When wolves kill prey, they gorge as much as possible to prevent consumption by competitors. This is followed by uncertain periods of hunger. In stark contrast, domesticated cats and dogs are fed assorted body parts, usually from animals they would never naturally eat, dispensed from tins or packets at predictable times daily, with kibble sometimes available ad libitum, i.e. always. This bears little resemblance to natural feeding behavior. Clearly, there are significant differences between the prey species these animals would naturally consume and the species routinely included within commercial meat-based diets. Furthermore, companion animal owners frequently microchip, vaccinate, deworm, deflea, and desex their animal companions and confine them indoors at night because they correctly believe such steps are recommended to safeguard health. Clearly, such owners are willing to depart quite radically from, quote, naturalness when they believe it may protect the health and welfare of their pets. Accordingly, the resistance of such owners to the concept of vegetarian companion animal diets is more likely to stem from ignorance about the hazardous ingredients found within commercial meat-based diets and about the potential of nutritionally sound vegetarian diets to safeguard health than from any deep-seated commitment to, quote, naturalness. Nutrients over ingredients. Dogs, and indeed all species, require specific nutrients rather than specific ingredients. There is no reason why diets comprised entirely of plants, minerals, and synthetically based ingredients, i.e. vegan diets, cannot meet the necessary palatability, bioavailability, and nutritional requirements of dogs. Studies. 3 studies are summarized below. Study by Semp. No significant differences were evident in any of the tested parameters compared to the dogs fed a conventional diet. Lower levels of iron and vitamin B12 in vegan dogs were not observed. Study by Brown et al. It is difficult to envision any companion animals placed under greater physical demands than sprint racing Siberian Huskies. During sprint races, these dogs run fast through snow while hauling sleds for much of the 30-mile race duration. Half of the dogs were fed with plant-based diets, while the other half with meat-based diets. All dogs were assessed as being in excellent physical condition. And lastly, study by PETA. Over 80% of dogs maintained on vegan or vegetarian diets for 50 to 100% of their lifetimes were reported as being in good to excellent health. The remaining 20% of dogs had the same health problems as those commonly reported within the normal domesticated dog population. Veterinarians that support plant-based diets for dogs. There's an ever-growing list of veterinarians who support and endorse plant-based diets for dogs. You can see a list of some of them linked here. You just listened to Vegan Dogs 101, Plant-Based Nutrition for Dogs. And I'm Marian Erickson, and this is Plant-Based Briefing. Our dogs have been plant-based for 13 months or so now, and they've never been healthier. In fact, one of our dogs used to have seizures. She was having them with increased frequency. She had had 7 seizures before going plant-based, and after making the switch, she had one about a month after, but now she hasn't had one in a year. And I like knowing that their food is clean. It's not full of all the antibiotics that are pumped into farmed animals, all of the toxins, especially in fish, all the discarded scraps that are not fit for human consumption. But because there's a buck to be made, they mix it up as a soup and sell it as food for our companion animals. Clean vegan dog food that's nutritionally balanced is the best way to go for your dog's health, for the health of the planet, and of course, for the animals. And tune in tomorrow to hear about vegan cats. And thanks for listening.